The air in the kitchen hung heavy, thick with the acrid tang of burnt toast and something sharper. Something unspoken that clawed at my throat. Sarah stood by the counter, her back to me, her shoulders rigid as she scrolled through her phone with a rhythm that felt too deliberate, too controlled. Her blonde hair, usually loose and soft, was knotted in a messy bun, strands fraying like her composure. I gripped my coffee mug, the ceramic hot against my palms, and tried to ignore the pulse hammering in my ears. "Weekly love maximum," she'd said last night. Her voice light but edged with something brittle, like glass about to crack. A system to ration our intimacy, 2 nights a week, scheduled, no exceptions. I'd laughed it off then, thinking it was one of her quirky experiments, but now, watching her avoid my gaze, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Her phone buzzed, a sharp vibration against the granite countertop, and her fingers froze mid-scroll. She didn't pick it up. Didn't even glance at it. Just let it hum, insistent, like a warning. My stomach twisted, a slow coil of unease. "Who's that?" I asked, aiming for casual, but my voice came out rough, scraped raw by the question I didn't want to ask. She shrugged a small, dismissive jerk of her shoulder, and muttered, "Work." The word landed like a stone, heavy with something I couldn't name. Work didn't text at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. Work didn't make her cheeks flush like that, a faint pink creeping up her neck. I set the mug down, the clink echoing in the too-quiet kitchen. The morning light slanted through the blinds, casting sharp shadows across her face, and I noticed the faint smudge of mascara under her eyes, like she hadn't slept. Like she'd been up all night, somewhere else, with someone else. The thought hit me like a fist, sudden and brutal, but I shoved it down. Sarah wouldn't. Not after 10 years. Not after the vows we'd whispered under starlight, her hand trembling in mine. But the doubt lingered, a splinter under my skin. "You okay?" I asked, softer this time, stepping closer. She flinched, just a fraction, but enough to make my chest ache. "Fine," she said, her voice clipped, her eyes still glued to the phone she wasn't touching. The lie was so obvious it stung. I wanted to grab her, to shake her, to demand what was wrong, but instead, I stood there, rooted, my hands useless at my sides. The kitchen clock ticked, each second a hammer against my skull. I remembered the late nights she'd started keeping, the vague excuses about client dinners, the way her perfume lingered in the car when I knew she'd been home all day. I tried to focus on the routine, the normalcy. I opened the fridge, the cold air a brief shock against my face, and grabbed the eggs. "Want an omelet?" I asked, forcing a smile. She didn't answer, just tapped her phone screen, her thumb hovering over a message I couldn't see. The silence stretched, taut and unbearable, until she finally said, "I'm not hungry." Her voice was distant, like she was already halfway out the door. I cracked an egg too hard, the shell splintering, yolk dripping through my fingers. I cursed under my breath, and she didn't even look up. The day dragged on, each moment heavy with unspoken questions. I caught myself watching her, cataloging every glance, every sigh. The way she tucked her phone under her thigh when I walked into the room. The way she laughed too quickly at my jokes, like she was trying to convince herself we were fine. By evening, the air between us was suffocating, a storm cloud ready to burst. We sat on the couch, a foot of space between us that felt like a canyon. The TV droned, some sitcom neither of us cared about, and I couldn't stand it anymore. "Sarah," I said, my voice low, trembling with the weight of what I was about to ask. "What's going on?" She froze, her fingers tightening around the remote. For a moment, I thought she'd brush me off again, but then she turned, her eyes meeting mine for the first time all day. They were wide, glassy, like she was staring at a ghost. "Nothing," she said, but her voice cracked, betraying her. I leaned forward, my heart pounding so loud I thought she'd hear it. "Don't lie to me," I said, quieter than I meant, because I was terrified of the truth. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her lips pressing into a thin line. The remote slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor, and in that moment, I saw it, guilt, raw and undeniable, flickering across her face. My stomach plummeted. "Who is he?" I asked, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Her breath hitched, and for a second, I thought she'd deny it, but then her shoulders slumped, and she buried her face in her hands. "Mark," she whispered, so soft I barely heard it. My world tilted, the room spinning as her words sank in. Mark. Her coworker. The one she'd mentioned casually, too casually, over the past few months. The one who'd been at every late-night meeting, every out-of-town conference. I felt sick, the kind of nausea that starts in your gut and claws its way up your throat. How long? I managed, my voice hoarse. She didn't answer, just shook her head, her fingers digging into her scalp. I wanted to yell, to scream, to shatter something, but all I could do was sit there, staring at the woman I thought I knew. The woman who'd promised forever, who'd laughed with me over burnt dinners and held me through my father's funeral. Now she was a stranger, her betrayal a knife twisting in my chest. Why? I asked, the word raw, desperate. She looked up, tears streaming down her face, and for a moment, I saw the Sarah I loved, vulnerable, broken. I don't know, she sobbed. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to. Her words were a punch, each one landing harder than the last. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the idea that this was a mistake, a moment of weakness. But the truth was colder, sharper. She'd chosen him. She'd chosen to lie, to hide, to build a system to keep me at arm's length. The weekly love maximum wasn't about us. It was about her guilt, her way of controlling what she'd already given away. I stood, my legs unsteady, and walked to the window. The street outside was quiet, the streetlights casting pools of gold on the pavement. I thought about the life we'd built, the plans we'd made, a house in the suburbs, kids, a dog. All of it felt like a lie now. A fragile dream crumbling under the weight of her confession. Do you love him? I asked, not turning around, because I couldn't bear to see her face. She was silent for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice so small it broke me, she said, I don't know. That was worse than a yes. Worse than anything. Because it meant she didn't know what she felt for me either. I turned, my eyes burning, and saw her curled into herself, a shadow of the woman I'd married. Part of me wanted to hold her, to fix this, to pretend it never happened. But another part, the part that was bleeding, raging, wanted to walk away and never look back. I upgraded. I said, my voice cold, unfamiliar even to me. I gave you everything, my heart, my trust, my life. And you crashed it. Her sob was the last sound I heard as I grabbed my keys and walked out, the door slamming behind me. The night air was sharp, cutting through my jacket, but I didn't feel it. All I felt was the weight of her betrayal, and the chilling certainty that nothing would ever be the same.